Okay, welcome to the listeners of this conversation today. I have a very special guest with me today. But before I, introduce the guest, let me just say for those of you who have already listened into maybe some of the videos, this is a community effort. What we are trying to do is to have conversations with senior HR and business leaders, short videos which HR practitioners can, go through at their own time. And from a think talent point of view, these resources are available publicly for the community, and it is purely a educational sort of an effort. Okay, and we are talking about various aspects around talent management. Okay, so today's conversation, I have with me a very special guest and a very old friend, Dr. GP Rao. So GP, welcome.
Thank you, Pranal. Thank you.
So GP has worked across various industries, and one of mentors to a lot of people in the HR community for many years now. More important, he's had experience in both public sector as well as outside the country and in private sector in India. So that's one aspect of him from a perspective point of view he can bring in. Also, he's a very practical person. So as I have listened to him in many forums, I think he brings in not just the humor side of HR, but also a very practical aspect to the whole functioning of HR, if you will, because he's worked in different places, done work with his hands, and so on and so forth. So again, GP, welcome to this conversation, and thanks for making the time.
Sure.
Okay, so let's launch straight into the discussion, GP. So because you worked across different industries, one of the questions I want to ask you is that are there different perspectives about talent in different industries? Do people look at talent differently? And are there similarities as well? I'm sure there are some similarities as well, but what's been your experience?
I think let's start with the positive first. There are similarities. The talent means who have got a good mindset, good skill set, people who contribute, who have got potential to grow, who want to stay there. That's the positive side. But there are differences in approaching the whole subject of talent. Broadly, let us see public sector, private sector, the government sector and all. So very first is the defining talent. So in a typical public sector is somebody who will stay with us for long. Somebody who will be very system driven, hierarchy driven. Somebody who has grown with us and he will let others grow. So the same thing when it goes to a private sector. Talent means somebody who can break the rules, he can contribute, he can perform, develop others, change. That is the typical self. That comes to the sourcing. When it comes to the sourcing, public sectors typically take people at the front line, the graduate engineer, the management trainee and all, then they grow them. And in private sector, they're open to lateral recruitments. That's how. So since the definition are different, naturally the parameters of assessing a potential is different. So these are the two broad differences I see in public sector and private sector.
Right. I'll come back to the difference between public and private sector as you rightly pointed out, GP. But since you worked across different industries as well, do you see fundamental differences between industries in the perspective they bring to talent?
No, the basic principles are same. No, because you define the role, you do the sourcing, you do the selection, you do the deployment, you do the development, you do leverage the talent. That the principles and steps are same, but how you do are different.
So could you give a couple of examples around how do you do? For example, some of the largest companies you worked with.
Yeah.
So if you take one practice, let's say sourcing or developing or whatever, and share with us a little bit of how would you see the difference in implementation?
Yeah, let's take the sourcing first example. So in a public sector, there will be very standard mode of recruitment. They will release an advertisement. The number of positions will be so much. The job description will be fixed. When it comes to a private sector, they may do more than once a year.
Right.
They may go to more than one mode of recruitment. They may start recruiting while the students are in the colleges.
Correct.
The colleges.
Correct.
So they can go to an outsource model itself. Whereas public sector will be straight jacket. It's first releasing an ad. Then again on the selection. Public sectors will be traditionally the CV value, the CGPA, the group discussion interview. And private sector will go for a variety of tests, variety of interviews, variety of parameters. So take the risk of taking people And some people even do the culture fitness
Correct.
In the private sector, I have seen.
Correct.
But then it doesn't mean that public sector are failing to take the right people. But that's the way they do it. And it's known, it's very transparent.
Correct, correct. So GPR thinks, if I may go back to your comment about the public sector for a minute, do you see things are changing in the public sector in terms of practices?
Yes, absolutely. See, one practice is they are going to different institutions now. So in addition to the public advertisement, no, they are going to the colleges, they are going to the institutions. Okay. The public sector has started. Number two, they've started taking women. Women, yeah, in the public sector. You take IOC, you take NTPC, you go to SAIL. Okay. So that's the major changes happened. The third thing is they used to have a very long induction processes. So now they're not doing. So the induction starts when they're in the colleges. Once the selection started, they're also doing that pre-joining induction and they reduce the induction. That's a change. And this development also, the L&D has changed. So not those traditional way of going to the institute, their training center and do it. Now they are doing, take example of IOC. They have done 250,000 e-learning programs during the COVID time. Okay. So, they are doing the e-learning, not because of COVID, otherwise digitalization. They are sending people for outside courses, trainings, conferences. So these things are happening and things are changing in public sector.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think you made a very good point earlier about, the quality of talent, because, a lot of private sector players, and when I'm saying players, I'm talking about employees and managers, they have a view sometimes that, the best people come to private sector and don't necessarily go to public sector. But, in my experience, actually, public sector has got equally, if not some of the better talent in some areas, certainly. And so I don't know, I just want to hear what's your perspective.
No. Once there was a study by Academy of HRD. See, if a public sector person comes to private sector, what he will miss? So he will miss personal touch, he will miss systems.
Okay.
If a private sector person comes to private sector to public sector, what he will miss? He will miss experimentation. He will miss performance-driven rewards.
Okay.
So that, this is a view given by us. Now, coming to this, the best people going to public sector, if you talk to the public sector people is, we will take human beings, we will make them competent. So that is the philosophy of public sector, because we will grow them, we'll make them great, we'll make them contribute to this. Whereas private sector, probably in a little hurry, they want more ready-made. More people come and take charge immediately, and they don't give that time. But these are all approaches.
Right. No, and
people are also joining public sector.
Yeah. No, because you spend time in both, and therefore, and now, of course, in your consulting work, you consult with both, so it's an interesting, perspective. So let me switch to a slightly different frame, GP. You have worked abroad, and particularly in other parts of Asia and in India. Do you see from a talent management perspective, some key differences with, between India and, let's say, rest of Asia?
Yeah. So one fundamental difference thing is we are more learning and training centric. So we spend more time on training and learning. That's number one. Number two, we are our performance management system is better. This is better. Goal setting, the reviews, the ratings. So these are the better. So what I would see, I'm just relatively better in Singapore, Malaysia, in these places is they're very focused. 8 hours, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, they do their work. They don't get digressed. They don't digress. This is the number one. Then the second point is, since they are very focused, so they don't move, they don't go away from the primary responsibility. Chances of their task completion is better, doubly better. Whereas in India and our places, we try to do multiple things, try to get digressed. This is one difference I saw.
Right. No, that's
In
a,
a
that's
general.
that's a, yeah, yeah, but it's an interesting difference because, India as a country, we are not known greatly for productivity, compared to many other nations. And, this may be one of the reasons,
Yeah,
which is, about focus and, that whole
yeah.
diligence piece kind of thing. But GP, on a slightly, maybe just probing that a little bit, uh, from a, just from a quality of talent perspective and, this thing, do you also see that this whole aspect of, productivity and, people being focused and so on and so forth, in general over the years, have you seen it getting better or is it getting worse? I know it's a very generic question.
Huh. I think, you see, one is because of the product itself. The more aware product is coming to the
Right.
industry. The people coming out of the colleges and all, they are more aware. That is number one. That's one. The number two is digitalization has made learnings more easier. So that's the second thing. And there is an element of contributing faster and finishing the task faster. I mean, I'm not, what I mean say is people are not planning to retire at 58 or 55 and 60. So they want to make a contribution, make a mark, and take a break. So that gives them that kick or urge or intent, the willingness or skill to contribute further. So that's making them competent or deliver better. That's happening now. That's my
What about distraction? Because one of the many studies are now talking about this aspect you mentioned very briefly. That a lot of people are getting distracted and trying to multitask, trying to do too many things. Rather than focus on one thing and really deliver high quality. And I'm sure there are all kinds of people. So I'm not necessarily wanting to draw a trend in that sense. But from a talent management perspective, would you say that this is something we need to watch out for? Do we need to start building it into our process to make sure that effectiveness and productivity does not get hampered?
Yeah, if you do the dashboards of performance, and make it more online, more regular, so there will be a moral pressure or pressure on the performance, the employee to focus on the goals and results. If you delay the evaluation, delay the process, so he can manage or afford to digress. That's one thing that we can make. Number two is this requires a kind of guidance and counseling. How to remain focused. This is a skill. This is art and science, So I always give this example that very competent workers in a factory. So they work in a noisy. That's how noise. There is a heat. There are lots of people, but they focus and then they maintain that quality. Now, you have to learn from them how to remain focused. It is possible to do that. They follow an SOP, finish it and go. People do this, particularly if you do manufacturing excellence, you will see. On the shop floor, you must learn from them. How do they remain focused? Because quality.
Oh, that's a great example because I think that for white collar workers who are generally in that space of distraction, if you will. I think it's a great example because how we can learn from blue collar workmen who are extremely focused for so many hours in the day on a particular task, which may also be very boring and repetitive at times. Actually,
that's
a great.
Probably example. The catch in the versatility. People think if you do multitasking, do multiple things, you become versatile. But that's actually, it's a catch. Actually, it's not a catch. You learn, during your off time, you read, you learn new skills, all that is good. But then there is a contract. I have signed a contract with my boss for doing something. Let's be focused on that. And then when I have a break, you learn it. Why during that? So that art and skill, we should help people actually.
No, that's a good point because see, it's also, GP, in my view, a reflection of I would say, the society is a lot more with the younger people, particularly when you talk about talent. They have lot many more options than were available, let's say 20, 30, 40 years back.
Yes.
And the sense of insecurity is much lesser. Now they know that if they're talented, they can get many opportunities.
That's a good trend. That's a good trend. That gives them the comfort, confidence.
Correct. So GP, as we come towards the end of this conversation, I think a couple of things I want. So one is, of course, the last question I will ask you separately because you are an expert at acronyms. So I will come back to that. But more important is that, you always have a small way of remembering certain things, and I will, that I'll ask you in the end. But before that, in general, in talent management, are you seeing some key trends which you could talk to us about? What are the 3, 4 top things you are seeing which are fundamentally changing?
See, when we're traditionally, it was functional competence.
Right.
Oh, he's a great project guy. He's a great digital. He's a great IT guy. So that's now he's a great leader. He's a great motivator. He's a great inspirer. He's a culture builder. He builds institution. That is coming. That's one good thing that is coming out. So that drives us to, it is beyond functional skill. The non-tech or the behavioral skills are equally important, if not more than important. This is one change that is coming. The second thing is coming is, it is output contribution led, rather than you are preparing the role driven or the job driven and all. It's everything to the contribution output driven. So that is the second thing. The third thing is the assessment has become more scientific. Earlier, I look at a person, I'll tell you, I spent eight moments, I'll spend. No. It is more scientific. It is 360. It is scientific tools are available. Experience are there. The digitation is helping us. So that is one. So the assessment part is also quite good. The third thing is the individuals, because he wants to contribute, he wants to grow and all. So he's taking interest. So the individual development plan, it's catching up. No, individual, actually IDP means individual. Correct. Whereas that IDP was being driven by HR. Now it is the individual rise. No, because it's my own interest, I'll do it. Correct. So he's developing. You're learning new things and all that sort. And he's ready to compete. And last thing is, people are reskilling and upskilling. They don't mind changing jobs, changing lines also. So that's one good thing happening from the individual point of view. From the company point of view, I mean, giving them the opportunities, giving them that competition. These are the feedback. Companies give feedback. So that will help in talent development.
Right. Yeah. No, those are great inputs, GP. So, last question, you normally have a, ABCDE framework or a CCC framework or whatever. So what's the latest framework which you can share with us?
No. When we are now saying he is on the talent, the talent is, who is the best guy? The best guy who will inspire. He has followers. He will leave a mark. We'll miss him when he leaves an organization. That's kind. So one thing that will come is his connectedness. So how he communicates, how he remains connected, that emotional bonding, that's number one. The second part is the adaptability.
Okay.
So it more from functional and behavioral, how he picks up new things, how he changes, how resilient he is, can he bounce back? That is the second one that is done. The third one that is as a leader, you will have to take care of people, but it has to be personalized.
Right.
It has to be personalized. If you can do that, that means you will think about new things, variety of things. You will develop options once you do this. So this will give an edge to the person who is otherwise functionally competent. That's coming.
Oh, great. So you haven't yet coined an acronym for it, or a
you can call it CAP.
CAP. Okay. So that's what you're saying. CAP. Okay. Great. So we all need a cap possibly, and everybody else needs a cap, to be a good leader and a good manager. So GP, thank you very much for this conversation. It's been lovely as usual talking to you. But more important, I hope that our leaders, all our listeners take back some of these tips around talent, and I'm sure they can use it in their day-to-day work. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.